I'm Janae Biddiscombe. I'm the manager here at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum, and I'm the second vice president for LAM. And in this session, we have our Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser, who wants to talk about the statewide museum marketing plan and tourism that's in Louisiana in general. So we are so thrilled to have you here, Billy, and we'd love to hear about it.
Great, glad to be with you. So is it time for me to start?
Yep, you're ready to go.
Let me get my screen thing straight. Technical deal, okay. So you can go to the next one. Okay. So wait, we're getting there. Okay. So what we did is looking at the museum system and the way it works, there's not a lot of interest in New Orleans and what's going on in Shreveport and vice versa. So we hired this company to look at the best way that we can organize and maximize the benefit of all the great museums in the state. And I'm going to go through a quick PowerPoint of what the overview looks like of that. The plan was to have this in front of the legislature last year, asking Kyle to put his museums in the plan, which he was not in favor of yet. And then I would give up control of the director. And we would let each of the three boards select their own director. And then we would have a board that was appointed by each of those groups, and Speaker of the House, Head of the Senate, the governor, give them a point. And that board would go to Baton Rouge and fight for funding for the three boards. The three boards would present their budget each year. And by putting some political appointees on that board, it would give us a little bit more stroke in getting the proper funding. Now, when this was finished, the plan was we bought the name LouisianaMuseums.com. We were going to video every museum in the state. We're working on designing a website to where if you're interested in military museums, you can pull that up, history, African-American, whatever it is, you pull up that subject and it's got a little video information about all those museums in the state. If you're in Natchitoches and you want to know what's within an hour drive, you'd be able to pull that up. So we're going to make it user-friendly. As soon as that is done, we're going to put some of this money we have for promoting Louisiana behind that and make sure we touch all of the people all over the country and the world that enjoy those type of museums, and hopefully get the numbers up at all of our museums. So look, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but I'll make this available to all of y'all. This is the three boards and what would be under those, each of those boards that is presently under the Secretary of State and the Lieutenant Governor.
But we can't see the PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need to go onto share screen.
All right.
Is that a share screen there?
Let me see.
What's blocked out?
Yeah, something's blocking me out.
See what's blocked out right there.
I think that's lack of. Did that do anything? What is this?
Do you see anything yet?
No, still just you. Julie, are all participants able to share their screen?
Yes, all should be able to.
Okay. So I'll keep talking while he's working on that so I don't eat up all your time. Just yell when y'all see it. So these three boards would be a representative from each of the museums, myself, the governor, Secretary of State, Northwood, North region, the New Orleans region, the president of the Senate, speaker of the House. That way, that council governance over the three boards would be able to hopefully get more funding for all the museums to convince legislators how important it is to the state. Something we haven't really had a lot of in political stroke. The three regions would be made up of appointments by the lieutenant governor, secretary of state, the mayor in each area, three by the presbytery, with names would be submitted by the Cabildo, Madam John's, the Jazz Museum, one by the secretary of state and the lieutenant governor. So in Baton Rouge, the same thing. E.D. White, the old governor's mansion, the old state capitol, they all have friends groups that would appoint three names, and we'd pick two from those to serve in Baton Rouge. And then the North Louisiana, the same thing, Sports Hall of Fame, the Cotton Museum, oil and gas, and they would all have appointments. There's Mansfield Female College Museum, Eddie Robinson, the Louisiana Delta Museum. So all the museums under Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor would all have a seat, and then they would select their directors. They would hire. I'd give up control that was taken away from the museum board some years ago. And I'll forward all y'all a copy of this so you can see it. But what it would do is create a unified system, one in marketing and promoting it, which a lot of the local museums don't have any funds to do this. And it would give us a wide range of support around the state, where just having one person on the board from North Louisiana, one from Baton Rouge, it would give us a force to be reckoned with in each area of the state, and they would support the other museums with marketing and special events. What I've learned over the years since I've been lieutenant governor is a lot of the people that made donations to the museum, they don't want a museum controlled by a politician. And I agree. I think by letting the boards get back in control, it will allow them to raise additional funds from those private entities that used to support the museums. I also, under this plan, believe we can have a museum ID where you can join and get in any of the museums. So we could leverage the ability for each area to raise money selling memberships, and the money would stay in that region for those museums, but they would enjoy free admission to the other museums. So it would give them the leverage to help sell additional museums, sell that membership to raise additional funds. And all of these things would be decided, how much, how they do it, by the board's decision. And there's some samples in here about membership and how that would work. We also looked at in this the budget of what we thought needed to be funded to fund the museums. Every year I give a little over $1 million in tourism money, sometimes as much as $2 million, to keep the museums open from tourism. We want to get back to where these museums can stand on the money they get from the state and the money they can generate. So we put together A, B, and C funding that we thought, having the larger exposure and political grasp around the state, including all of these, it would give us the ability to get that additional funding and to set up a grant program where we could help some of the local museums with some of their needs. We have a building in the middle of the French Quarter, that stores art, 4 stories, beautiful view of the river. We don't need a store in the French Quarter. We'd like to get that building into commerce with a 99-year lease. And through our private-public partnership that we created some years ago, we can then use that money and in our museum system, create an opportunity for grants that would help support the whole museum system. And we never did get the thing working. Oh, it is working? Y'all have it now? Do y'all have it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. So let me run through. So that's the Civil Rights Trail, which the Civil Rights Museum Board has never had a home. And we have offered them a portion of the Cabildo to use to take advantage of the people that are going to travel around, visiting the historical markers we're putting up. We've got 3 up. COVID slowed us down a little bit, but we've got 15 more identified that will help bring people. It's brought millions of people to Alabama and Mississippi. This will be a great opportunity for us to drive people into the communities all over Louisiana. The website is long overdue, where many of these local museums don't have the money to promote their areas. We're going to do it for them. We're going to go out in video. We'll have their times that they're open, all the neat things they have. And then once we get this up and running, and I believe our goal is to have everything completed by the first of the year, then we're going to put a lot of money behind making sure people all over the country know what we have in every corner of Louisiana. So I'm going to share a little video of one we did just to give you an idea of what we can do with all your museums and get around to make sure we're getting the best video we can.
We're standing outside the Coke Museum at the Biedenharn Museum and Gardens. And I think we've got a unique place here in Monroe,
Can you hear that?
Louisiana. We have the Coke Museum, we have a Bible museum, we have a historic house, and we have a garden. And all of this was created by Emmylou Biedenharn. She had had a singing career in Europe during the 1930s, came home to Monroe in the 40s and said, I want to do something to benefit my city and the region. With that, she developed her garden. She had an incredible Bible collection, opened her Bible museum and her home to the public. And then in 2008, we opened the Coke Museum, which is part of her family's legacy. Emmylou's father, Joe Biedenharn, was the first person to bottle Coca-Cola. He did that in Vicksburg, Mississippi, but soon after that, he moved to Monroe. Monroe became their bottling headquarters. And the Coke bottle is very important in the history of Coca-Cola. People just love coming through and learning the history of Coke. We do a talk about the evolution of the Coke bottle, and we've got a lot of Coca-Cola memorabilia around too. When you visit the Biedenharn Museum and Gardens and you take a tour, I think one of the most special things we've got antique Coca-Cola machines. And you take a nickel and you buy a Coca-Cola, ice cold Coca-Cola for a nickel. I tell people it's more fun to pay a nickel for a Coke than it is to get one free just because of the nostalgia. I almost think nostalgia is as important as just pure history. And this is a very nostalgic place for folks. And for families to go through together, there's something for everybody, and there's connections that are made. And I think connections are really very important these days.
So that's kind of an overview of what we're thinking. Nothing is, anything can be changed. We were trying to get around and meet with all the groups around the state. We've done a little bit of that with COVID. It kind of shut us down. But I really want to hear back either through Stephen or Michael McKnight at the museum or myself. I'm sure y'all going to have, I'll be glad to answer any questions now if there's time, but I'll also be more than happy to come out to your community and meet with anyone. I want this to be a plan that works for the greater good of all the museums. I don't want it to be my idea or one serving one area or one person or one group over another. I want it to be something we all can agree, or most of us can agree, will work for the greater good of the museum for the whole state. So with that, I'll, if anyone has questions or you'd like anything else from me.
I have a question about the website. So many museums have very well-developed websites already of their own. Would those go away? So it would truly just be one website for the state of Louisiana?
Absolutely not. What we would do is for that museum, we would highlight those museums. You'd click on there in the promotions we do, and it would bring them to your website. So we don't have to do, a lot of the small museums don't have good video or updated information. We will provide that. If you've got it already, that's even better. We just add it and we promote it for you. And that way, when they click on the name of your museum or your region, it brings up all of those websites and they can click on and then see all the things you have to offer.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Lieutenant Governor, Thomas Carmody here. I had a quick question for you. The 99-year lease for the French Quarter building, do you have any idea what that's going to generate? And if so, was the idea that it would be, the proceeds would be utilized in thirds for the New Orleans area, the central area of the state, and the northern area?
No, I think, great point. I think what we will try to do, much like we're trying to do at the state parks through the private-public partnerships, establish that money would be granted to, let's say, you'd apply for grants through the museum, whether it be for a new exhibit, whether it would be for a new roof. And we would hope that money would have a little bit more flexibility, much like the state park private-public partnership, where we'll be able to do some things that we normally couldn't do with state tax dollars. So I don't have, we don't have exactly how that's going to be lined out yet, but I know through the foundation that was set up through the private-public partner state parks, so we can do some things that wouldn't normally be done, whether it be a grant for an exhibit, whether it be, so we would set up some pockets of money where all of the museums could take advantage of that to give them a little lift. For instance, I learned as parish president, if I put up a third of the money, I could usually get a third out of the state and sometimes a third out of the federal government, because leveraging that money. So we could have some of it to where we could go to local government and say, look, if you match, we can get half through this foundation. It makes it a little easier to get money, where usually museums are the last people in line to get funding on a local level. We can kind of leverage some money to get additional state or local money in support of the museums. And I think the marketing tool is also going to help generate more people coming to those museums, which will help them raise additional monies internally.
And the museums that we're referencing, these are not just state museums. These will be all museums across the state of Louisiana, correct?
Absolutely. Every museum.
Every museum. Do we have an idea? Do we have an idea of the total number of museums in the state?
I think it's 411.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a question that Tim from the USS Kid had in the chat, if the website was going to include all museums, state-run, private. So, okay, it will include everybody.
And look, we're going to do some things like around the military holidays. We're going to say, go out and support the USS Kid, the World War II. And then we'll take a lead from many of you and say, look, if you go, visit this museum this month, you're going to get a free pass to the other museum. We're going to come up with some promotional things to drive people that would focus on one aspect of the museums to other ones. And so our marketing people are going to really look at working with some of the local groups and see how we can help really drive people. And maybe even if you visit 20 museums, you get a free pass for a year to the state museums where you usually pay. So we can do all kind of things to drive people and promotional things.
So I don't know if you mentioned, is there a budget is there a budget for this whole project? Just out of curiosity.
We're paying for it out of tourism right now. I can send you what we've spent thus far. The marketing budget has not been determined, but when I asked the governor how much money, he asked me how much I needed to rebuild tourism back to record-breaking years. I saw Tennessee spending 20 million, Mississippi 12 million. I asked for 20 million, thinking I would get 10, and he gave me all 20 million. So we've got, and we'll get that same money if things don't change next year. So we're doing some things that we never thought of doing. So I'm committing as much money as necessary to get this people, to let people around the country that we've never marketed these museums know, as well as in-state. You know, we've been promoting the staycation. Soon as the site, which is up, it's just not, doesn't have all the data on it yet. Soon as it's all there, we'll send some money in state promoting different regions to get people to go around and see the museums. And we'll spend whatever it takes to really get this out there.
So besides the website, that I'm assuming a lot of the money is going to go towards digital marketing, like geofencing and digital ads and all of that. Is that sound right?
Absolutely. You know, I have no clue how that's done, but I know this. The first festival out the gate was the Logging Fest, and they were fearful nobody would come. And I told our marketing team, I don't care what it takes. I don't want that event to be a failure. So they were able to market it to people that go to those kind of events, and they could tell by how many people opened and how long they spent on the site, how many people would actually go. And they assured me it would be a great turnout, and they had their best one ever. So they are able to target market people that like military museums. You know, I had some people we sent to the USS Kidd. They didn't even know it was there. How do you live in Louisiana and not know the USS Kidd is there? But getting that out to school groups, to people that love military stuff, and keeping it in front of them so they're wanting to come back. So we'll put a whole plan together. We'll work with the different regions in the state. And then as we promote other events, like right now, we're welcoming, come home for the holidays. Invite your family and friends to come back to Louisiana. Don't go see them. Invite them here as a promotional for Christmas and the holidays. And then we also are hosting a tailgate at every university. This Saturday will be Grambling. Last week was Monroe, LSU Florida game, and we're doing Louisiana seafood. We invited 2.2 million alumni back to come back home and see their family and friends. Now at Louisiana Tech, we had 800 alumni come back. We had several hundred others that said, hey, can't make the game, but I will plan a trip back to Louisiana soon. So doing those kind of things and partnering and tagging the museum website will give us additional exposure long-term. So we'll be able to include that site in a lot of other things we do.
Stephen, did you have your hand up? Did you want to ask a question?
Well, I just wanted to underscore some of the things that Lieutenant Governor said. Really, most important is to contact myself or Deputy Director Dr. Michael McKnight. And I think our emails are on the website. I'm smclansky@crt.la.gov, and Michael is obviously the first initial of his first name, and then the rest of his name, and then the crt.la.gov. And I just wanted to thank the Lieutenant Governor for his support of the museums. There's no one who works harder to support culture in our state. And besides just having the financial support that the Lieutenant Governor talks about having, his support and passion for the museums, I think, is super important. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Stephen.
Well, and being a sports museum up here in Natchitoches, I love the idea of the tailgate. That's, you know, 'cause it's such a small community, but we could probably get several hundred people back. For any,
Absolutely. We're working on that one as well. We've had to change some of the schedules because of the hurricane to shift some of them around. But we're going to plan on doing this every year for one tailgate each year. It just reminds the people that went to school there how much fun it is to come back to Louisiana. So we think it's a great promotional tool we can use every year.
all right, does anyone else have any questions?
Well, thank y'all so much. And listen, call on me. Change is never easy. People are always suspicious of why we're doing this. I truly only want to do what's best for all the museums as a whole. And giving up control of the director, I believe, is the right thing to do. And but any ideas or thoughts, this is all preliminary. Please let us know, because we want this to work for everybody.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant Governor, and it was great information, and we will certainly contact you if you have any questions.
Thank y'all. Have a great day.
Thank you.